Andrew's Peter begins with tragedy. His parents abandon him for reasons unknown, leaving behind a boy haunted by questions. This makes him a true underdog, fighting for answers while also dealing with the pain of losing Uncle Ben. From the start, his journey as personal Spider-Man isn't just about stopping crime. It's about finding himself in a world that keeps taking things from him. Tom's Peter, on the other hand, starts as Iron Man's fanboy. His big introduction isn't about pain, loss, or responsibility. It's about a fun vlog where he gushes over his Stark-funded trip to Germany. Instead of struggling with his powers, he's handpicked by Tony Stark, given a high-tech suit, and told he's the next big thing. Where's the hardship? Where's the growth? He's Spider-Man because Iron Man said so, not because life forced him to be. This is the fundamental difference between them. Andrew's Spider-Man is self-made, Tom's is Stark-made. Andrew's Peter earns his first victory through skill, agility, and improvisation. When he takes on criminals, it's raw. He's cocky, but he's also figuring things out as he fights. The lizard fight? A battle of brains versus brawn. He isn't just whipping up goons, he's outsmarting a monster twice his size, setting traps, and dodging deadly attacks. Tom's Peter, his first big fight is against ATM robbers, and even that almost goes wrong. The Vulture fight later on, he's nearly killed and has to be saved by Tony Stark's remote control suit. Instead of showing how he's growing as a hero, the movie keeps reminding us that he's just a kid who isn't ready. But isn't Spider-Man supposed to be the hero who stands alone? Andrew's Peter is an actual outcast. He's bullied, keeps to himself, and feels like an outsider even when surrounded by people. He's the kid you'd see skating alone after school, struggling with real-life problems like rent and responsibilities. Even after he gets his powers, life doesn't suddenly become easy. If anything, it gets worse. He isn't at parties. He isn't in the cool crowd, and his crush doesn't even notice him at first. Tom's Peter. He has friends, a school squad, and even Flash Thompson isn't really a threat. He's just an annoying rival, not a real bully. He's invited to parties, flirts with Liz, and honestly, his high school life is pretty chill compared to Andrew's. Where's the struggle? Where's the depth? Instead of feeling like a misunderstood genius, Tom's Peter feels like a kid from a Disney Channel sitcom. Andrew's Peter and Gwen Stacy have actual chemistry. Their romance isn't just a side plot, it's a core part of the story. Gwen isn't just there to react to Peter. She drives the plot, helps with his missions, and even defies her father to be with him. When she dies, it's not just tragic, it's soul-crushing. That moment defines Peter forever, making him a broken hero who carries his pain into every battle. Tom's Peter and MJ, their relationship feels forced. There's no slow build-up, no deep connection, it just suddenly happens. MJ barely interacts with him in Homecoming, and in Far From Home, they're suddenly crushing on each other. Compare that to Gwen, who had years of emotional build-up before her tragic ending. Who feels more real, the couple with passion, or the one written for convenience? Andrew's Peter creates his own suit from scratch, stitching it together piece by piece. It's not perfect, but that's the point. He's figuring things out, just like his powers. His second suit in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is even better, showing that he's refining his craft as a hero. Every improvement feels personal because he worked for it. Tom's Peter, Tony Stark hands him a high-tech suit with AI, drones, instant kill mode, and God knows what else. He doesn't have to struggle to improve, it's all done for him. Even when he loses the suit in Homecoming, he gets another one in Far From Home because Happy Stark gives him access to a high-tech lab. Where's the struggle? Where's the creativity? Spider-Man is supposed to be a street-level hero, not Iron Man Jr. Andrew's Peter is broke. He can't afford rent. He struggles to balance school and work, and he constantly faces real-life consequences. In TASM 2, we even see him getting evicted because he can't pay bills. His hero journey isn't just about fighting villains, it's about surviving in a world that doesn't care about him. Tom's Peter never once struggles with money. His Aunt May has a nice apartment. He has access to Stark's tech. And even after May dies, we never see him truly struggling to make ends meet. Compare this to Andrew's Peter, who literally worries about affording eggs, who feels more relatable. The genius kid figuring things out, or the one who always has a billionaire benefactor. Andrew's Spider-Man is the king of quips. His humor isn't just funny, it's perfectly timed and sharp. In TASM, when he takes down a car thief and starts mocking him while webbing him up, it's peak Spider-Man. His jokes feel like an active combat strategy, throwing villains off their game while showing he's having fun. Tom's Spider-Man, his humor often feels forced. In Homecoming, he awkwardly talks during fights, but it feels more like nervous rambling than clever wit. Even in Infinity War, when he says, "Oh, we're using our made-up names? It's funny, but it doesn't feel like classic Spidey banter. Andrew's Spider-Man feels like he's taunting criminals with confidence, while Tom's often feels like a kid trying to sound cool. Andrew's villains are deeply connected to his life. The Lizard was his father's old partner, Electro was obsessed with Spider-Man before turning into a villain, and Harry Osborn was his childhood friend. Every fight feels personal because these aren't just bad guys, they're people who once mattered to Peter. When he fights them, it's not just about stopping a threat. It's about dealing with emotional baggage. Tom's villains? Most of them hate Iron Man, not Spider-Man. Vulture? A guy who got screwed over by Stark Industries. Mysterio? A former Stark employee. Even the villains in No Way Home were from other Spider-Man movies, they weren't part of Tom's personal journey. The first villain that truly feels like his is Green Goblin in No Way Home, but even then, that's just because Aunt May dies. Andrew's Peter always had personal stakes, while Tom's often feels like he's just caught in Iron Man's mess. Andrew's Peter is haunted by Uncle Ben's death. It's a defining moment that fuels his entire journey. The guilt, the responsibility, and the pain push him to become Spider-Man. He even spends time tracking down the guy who killed Uncle Ben, showing how personal it is for him. Every decision he makes is tied to that loss. Tom's Peter, Uncle Ben, is barely mentioned. His death is glossed over so much that some fans even forget he existed in the MCU. Instead of being shaped by personal loss, Tom's Peter is motivated by impressing Tony Stark. His Uncle Ben moment doesn't come until No Way Home when Aunt May dies to whole movies too late. Andrew's Spider-Man fights like a real underdog. He uses creative web moves, dodges attacks with insane agility, and adapts to every situation. In his battles, you can see that he's constantly thinking on the spot, using his environment and webbing to outsmart stronger opponents. He fights like a parkour-trained genius who knows he has to be smarter, not just stronger. Tom's Spider-Man relies way too much on tech. Half of his fights involve AI assistance from his Stark suit, instant kill mode, and a suit that basically fights for him. Even in Homecoming, he loses to Vulture without Stark's tech. In Far From Home, he only wins against Mysterio after using Tony's tech. Would he even survive without Stark's upgrades? Andrew's Peter has some of the most painful emotional breakdowns in Spider-Man history. When Gwen dies, he doesn't just cry, he completely collapses. The way he screams, the way he holds her lifeless body, the way he disappears for months afterward, it's raw, heartbreaking, and human. Even in No Way Home, when he saves MJ, you can see years of trauma and regret in his face. Tom's Peter, his emotional moments rarely hit as hard. When Tony dies, sure, it's sad, but it feels more like the loss of a mentor, not a father figure. When Aunt May dies, it's his biggest loss yet, but he moves on too quickly. Compare that to Andrew's Peter, who was broken for months after Gwen's death, who feels like they truly suffered more. Andrew's Peter and Aunt May have a deep and emotional bond. You can feel that they truly depend on each other after Uncle Ben's death. Their conversations are raw, and Aunt May struggles to raise him alone while Peter tries to hide his double life. One of the best moments is in Tassim 2 when she breaks down, telling Peter that he's her boy even if she didn't give birth to him. Tom's Peter and Aunt May, their relationship feels too casual. In Homecoming, she's mostly there for comic relief. In Far From Home, she's joking about her romance with Happy. It's not until No Way Home that we get a real emotional moment, but by then, it feels like the movie suddenly remembered Aunt May was important. Andrew's Spider-Man feels like a true street-level hero. He saves regular people, stops small crimes, and even takes time to help a bullied kid fix his science project. He isn't just about fighting supervillains, he actually cares about the little guy. His best moments include interacting with New Yorkers, joking with cops, and genuinely being the people's hero. Tom's Spider-Man feels more like an Avenger than a street hero. He's constantly caught up in world-ending battles, from fighting Thanos to dealing with multiverse threats. Even in Far From Home, he spends most of the movie outside of New York. Where's the classic web-slinger swinging through Queens, stopping muggers, and helping random citizens? Instead, he's busy getting recruited for intergalactic missions. Andrew's Peter is a scientific prodigy. He builds his own web shooters, deciphers his father's secret research, and even figures out how to cure the lizard. His intelligence is a core part of his character. He doesn't just rely on powers, he uses his brain to solve problems. When he fights Electro, he strategizes mid-battle, using his knowledge of electricity to counter him. Tom's Peter, smart, but never the smartest guy in the room. He gets help from Stark's tech, relies and happy to give him resources, and even his web shooters feel like something Stark could have easily built for him. In No Way Home, it's Tobey's Peter who reminds him that making cures for villains is what Spider-Man does, as if Tom's Peter needed that reminder. Shouldn't he have already been doing that? Andrew's Peter isn't just a nerd, he's got swagger. He's awkward at times, but he's not a socially clueless mess. He flirts naturally with Gwen, stands up to bullies, and walks around with a quiet confidence. When Flash tries to humiliate him, he humiliates Flash right back. When he's Spider-Man, his confidence skyrockets, making him feel like a kid who truly comes alive when he's in costume. Tom's Peter, too awkward for his own good. He stumbles over his words, constantly second-guesses himself, and feels more like a fanboy than a confident hero. Even in Homecoming, when he's around Liz, he's an absolute nervous wreck. Compare that to Andrew's Peter, who naturally charms Gwen without coming off as desperate. Andrew's Peter learns the true meaning of responsibility early on. Uncle Ben's death changes everything for him, forcing him to mature instantly. He struggles with his responsibility, fails sometimes, but always remembers why he fights. When Gwen dies, he almost quits being Spider-Man, but he finds a way to keep going because he knows the city needs him. Tom's Peter, he doesn't fully understand responsibility until No Way Home. The whole "with great power comes great responsibility" lesson is missing for 2 entire movies. In Homecoming, he just wants to impress Tony. In Far From Home, he tries to give his superhero responsibilities to Mysterio. It's not until No Way Home after Aunt May's death that he finally gets the classic Spider-Man lesson. Why did it take so long? Andrew's Peter suffers deeply from loss. Uncle Ben's death changes him. Captain Stacy's death makes him doubt his right to be Spider-Man. Gwen's death, it destroys him. He isolates himself, stops being Spider-Man for months, and you can see that he's completely shattered. But he fights through it, finding his way back because that's what a hero does. Tom's Peter, he moves on from loss to quickly. Uncle Ben's death is barely acknowledged. When Tony Stark dies, it's sad, but by Far From Home, he's already flirting with MJ like nothing happened. Even when Aunt May dies in No Way Home, it's heartbreaking, but by the end of the movie, he's back to being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man like it was just another lesson learned. Andrew's Peter feels permanently changed by his losses. Tom's Peter feels like he just resets after each one. Andrew's final swing in TASM 2 is pure cinema. He's been broken by Gwen's death, but after seeing a little kid stand up to Rhino, he remembers why he became Spider-Man in the first place. The music swells. He swings through the city with renewed purpose, and it's a perfect emotional send-off that shows how much he's grown. It's not just about swinging, it's about finding hope after tragedy. Tom's final swing in No Way Home, visually cool but lacks emotional weight. Sure, he finally ditches the Stark tech and goes back to a classic Spider-Man suit, but it feels more like a reset than a true character-defining moment. He's lost everything, but we don't see him truly struggle with that yet. Meanwhile, Andrew's final swing was a hard-earned moment of redemption and resilience. Andrew's Peter delivers some of the best emotional lines in Spider-Man history. His speech to Aunt May and TASM about feeling like his father left him behind, genuinely heartbreaking. His moment in No Way Home, talking about how he stopped pulling his punches after Gwen's death. Chilling and raw, his monologues make you feel his pain. Tom's Peter, his emotional moments sometimes feel forced. His speech to Aunt May in No Way Home is powerful, but it doesn't land as hard because their relationship wasn't built up enough. Even his conversation with Doctor Strange about erasing everyone's memories feels more like a plot necessity than a genuine emotional moment. Andrew's Spider-Man faces danger head-on with pure determination. Even when he's up against the Lizard, a massive, monstrous opponent, he never hesitates. He cracks jokes, yes, but you can see his fear underneath it makes him feel human. But what makes him different? He fights through that fear anyway. When Electro nearly kills him, he keeps pushing forward, thinking his way out of the situation. Tom's Spider-Man, constantly second-guessing himself. Throughout Homecoming, he panics about making the wrong move. When Vulture drops the building on him, he only gets up because he hears Tony's voice in his head. In Far From Home, he hands over Edith to Mysterio because he doesn't trust his own instincts. Andrew's Peter faces fear alone and grows stronger from it, while Tom's Peter leans too much on others to tell him what to do. Andrew's Spider-Man taunts his enemies like no other. When he fights a car thief, he humiliates the guy by webbing him to the wall and messing with him. Against Electro, he throws rapid-fire insults while dodging attacks. His quips aren't just funny, they show that he's in control of the fight. Even when he's scared, his sarcasm makes him seem fearless, which is classic Spidey. Tom's Spider-Man. His jokes often feel safe. He's funny, sure, but his humor doesn't have the same bite. He fanboys over villains instead of taunting them. You have a metal arm. That's awesome, dude. Even when fighting, he doesn't use humor as a tactic, he just says whatever comes to mind. Andrew's Spider-Man uses wit as a weapon, while Tom's feels more like an awkward teenager trying to be funny. Andrew's Spider-Man has one of the best suits ever put on screen. The TASM suit is perfection, big white eyes, a classic yet modern design, and a look that feels both realistic and comic accurate. Even his TASM 1 suit, while different, has a homemade, tactical look, making it clear that Peter designed it himself. Tom's Spider-Man, most of his suits feel like Stark design gadgets. The Homecoming suit has built-in AI, tracking abilities, and even a drone. The Iron Spider suit completely removes his need for web-slinging acrobatics because it can fight for him. By No Way Home, when he finally gets a homemade suit, it feels like the first time he's truly Spider-Man. But for most of his journey, he's Iron Man Jr. in a Spidey suit. Andrew's Peter always tries to save his villains, even when they don't deserve it. He genuinely wants to help Dr. Connors find a cure instead of just beating him up. He talks to Electro, treating him like a person, not just a threat. Even when fighting Harry Osborn, he pleads with him first, showing that he doesn't want to fight unless there's no other option. Tom's Peter mostly just fights them. In Homecoming, he defeats Vulture, but it's Tomb's own mistake that nearly kills him, not Peter's mercy. In Far From Home, he straight up kills Mysterio even if it was accidental. It's not until No Way Home that he actually tries to cure his villains, but only because the other Spider-Men show him that's the right thing to do. Andrew's Peter had that mindset from the start. The bridge rescue scene in The Amazing Spider-Man is one of the most underrated Spider-Man moments. Instead of just fighting, Andrew's Peter prioritizes saving lives first. He rescues a child trapped in a car, hands him his mask for courage, and gently reassures him before pulling him to safety. It's a scene that defines who Spider-Man is, a hero who protects the innocent before all else. Tom's bridge fight in No Way Home, a cool action scene, but nothing emotional. He fights Doc Ock, but the focus is more on the multiverse twist than Peter himself. There's no human moment like Andrew's mask scene, just another villain encounter. Andrew's scene proves that Spider-Man is not just about the fights but about the people he saves. So, after breaking down scene by scene, moment by moment, it's clear Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man hits harder, feels deeper, and swings better than Tom Holland's. But here's the real question: did we just expose the truth? Or are we completely wrong? Is Andrew the most underrated Spider-Man? Or does Tom's version deserve more credit than we gave him? Did we miss a key moment that proves Tom is better? Or did we just confirm what real Spider-Man fans already knew? Drop your hottest take in the comments. Who's your favorite Spider-Man? And what's the one scene that proves it? Let's settle this debate once and for all.